Like, the expectations on this squad just weren't very realistic, I think.
Arsenal still had to rely on the best centre-back in the world and the best goalkeeper in the world, producing maybe the biggest howler of their career.
They're just not getting better fast enough, and it does feel like he's making quite obvious errors. Hello and welcome back to Monday Vibes, everybody. Happy Monday. Great to see you. Welcome back to Monday Vibes. We are not in our new Monday Vibes studio because Tim Henman's in there with Laura Robson.
Wow.
So we have been turfed out, as you'd expect, but we are here on the old Monday Vibes set. I'm joined by Mikey McCubbs. How are you, Mikey?
I'm good, thanks, Dukes. I'm good, thanks. Yeah.
You met your mystic match yesterday.
I did meet my mystic match yesterday, yeah. In a video that's now a minor viral hit as we speak. Went to the Arsenal game yesterday to kind of speak to fans before and after the game. Was speaking to Liverpool fans before the game, and then this Arsenal fan came along and said that Arsenal are going to win the league. They're going to make the semi-finals of the Champions League, and they were going to win 3-1. He was very forthright about it.
Actually, you know what? We could probably put the clip in now.
Yeah,
check it out.
Jürgen Klopp's nothing. We had Arsene Wenger. Arsene Wenger was God. Jürgen Klopp is nothing. Nothing. We're going to Liverpool today, nothing. Arsenal going to be 3-1 today. Yes, and then we're going to go on, and we're going to win the league. Take this, because you remember at the end of the season, we are going to win the league. Yes, and semi-finalists of the Champions League. Today we're going to win 3-1.
I'll take your word for it. Go, okay, enjoy the game.
So he was quite a character. Let's just hope the fame doesn't go to his head. I don't.
Didn't you say that he was pretending to be a Liverpool fan?
I said to him, "Are you a Liverpool fan?" Because I was only interviewing Liverpool fans, and he was like, "Yeah." But I don't think. To be honest, I don't think he was actually listening to me. I think he was just. I think he was just wanted to get on the mic. And so whatever I said to him at that point, he was just going to be like, yeah, whatever. Like, let's just get me on the mic. Very impassioned. And of course, it came true. I guess let's start there, Dukes.
Yeah,
Arsenal 3, Liverpool 1. I mean, this feels like. Well, it depends what happens in the next few weeks, but right now it feels like a very significant result. On Sunday Vibes yesterday, obviously recorded at the end of last week, I, for one, I think said that Liverpool were light years ahead of Arsenal at this moment in time, form-wise at least. We both predicted Liverpool wins, didn't we?
We did.
I was very confident that Liverpool were at least not going to lose this game and were going to maintain that lead over Arsenal. But as it happens, Arsenal are now only 2 points behind them. They would have been 8 points behind them if they'd lost that game. I think we were all pretty, set on that being, the nail in the coffin of Arsenal's title hopes had they lost yesterday. So, this feels massively significant, Dukes, and a well-deserved victory at that.
Yeah, 100%. Just before we get on to the victory, I suppose it is worth putting out there that Liverpool were missing two of their form players at the moment in Conor Bradley, who had a family bereavement. Thoughts to him and his family, and Darwin Núñez, who was only fit enough for the bench after sustaining an injury in the midweek against Chelsea. I think someone stood on his foot, and he had to leave in a protective boot, so he couldn't start.
Szoboszlai also out of the squad as well.
Also out, but less of a form player now. But
true.
Two big players right in form as well. But this was very, very one-sided, I thought, to be totally honest, and I was super, super impressed by Arsenal. I thought Martin Odegaard looked back to his 22-23 Martin Odegaard form, which was absolutely crucial. I thought Jorginho was sensational in midfield. I thought Declan Rice really bossed that midfield as well. And it wasn't obviously Liverpool's first choice midfield. I mean, Ryan Gravenberch had quite a poor game, I think, by his standards, but I think he's been fine for Liverpool so far. I was maybe expecting
his moments, hasn't he?
Yeah, I was maybe in the Europa League. I think he's had more, but I was expecting a little bit more from him, if I'm totally honest. But for Liverpool, I thought after that first half, I was like, Arsenal have really shot themselves in the foot here because they were so in control. It was just a matter of poor finishing and a really sloppy goal to concede at the moment. A rare Saliba error. He's waiting for David Raya. Maybe David Raya could be slightly more decisive, but I think it really goes down as a Saliba error. Liverpool back in it at half-time, and you think that is going to come back to bite them because we saw in the FA Cup, I think earlier in January, Arsenal failed to take their chances. Liverpool win 2-0. Bish, bash, bosh. Then at the start of the second half, Liverpool did look a little bit better for 10-15 minutes, but then the way that Arsenal dealt with that, with their season sort of on the edge, I thought was super, super impressive. And in the end, it was a fully deserved victory. Lots of talk afterwards about Arteta's celebrations. Lots of talk afterwards about Odegaard taking a photo with a club photographer who's a lifelong fan of the club. honestly, cry me a river. Get over it. If you can't celebrate wins, what can you in this sport?
Yeah.
It drives me absolutely mental. You know, it is, in all likelihood, as it is every season, Man City are the favourites for the title. If Arsenal don't win the title, it's not because they over-celebrated a victory against Liverpool. They got their season back on track. Like, I just thought it was absolutely ridiculous. But, Mikey, you were there. I mean, what was the mood in the stadium afterwards, before the game? Did it feel like a pretty seismic moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think it did. I mean, fans will always be pretty, especially at 7 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon, with some of them having had a few beers. There's always going to be quite a lot of, celebration after the game, outside the stadium, or people in good spirits. But yeah, I mean, the mood was high. The mood was really, really high, and there were a number of Arsenal fans who I spoke to after the game who were like, "Yeah, we're going to win the league."
Really?
Being bullish, obviously. Plenty of other Arsenal fans saying, let's calm down. We don't really know. Not wanting to get ahead of themselves. But yeah, the mood was obviously pretty great. And on that, Dukes, I'm in agreement. I mean, like, football, I think George put it quite well in our kind of, Football Daily, or former Football Daily
group chat,
saying, it's almost like, being a football fan is about the moments rather than,
the end destination.
The end destination, we can only celebrate now if we're guaranteed to win the league in May. And I mean, to be fair, like, we were talking about it again last week in regards to Liverpool, about the feeling at Anfield and how, the emotions running so high at Anfield after the Klopp resignation that, there's a chance that maybe the atmosphere in the stadium will become so high emotion that it could, well, first of all, be a great help to the players, but also maybe work the other way against the players, in that it becomes just too much emotion for however long. That's certainly possible. Like, there is certainly something to be said that, like, big celebrations in certain games or over a sustained period, or, like, the atmosphere being absolutely electric for a sustained period could have a detrimental effect. There's no doubt about that. But this was undoubtedly Arsenal's biggest win of the season. They were celebrating being back in the title race. Like, they were all back. Like, given what we know about City and Liverpool and their form recently, like we were saying, if Arsenal had lost this game, they would have been out of the title race.
Yeah.
This puts them back into it. I think that's, it's absolutely fine to celebrate in that manner. Like, it was relief more than anything. And, people talk about last season when, those late victories against Bournemouth and Aston Villa, and especially the celebrations after Bournemouth. And I get that as well. But was over celebrating against Bournemouth the reason why they didn't win the league? No, I don't think it was. It was Saliba's injury and Thomas Partey losing form. There were more actual kind of evidence-based reasons as to why Arsenal lost the league last year, or gave up that lead. So I think people are looking a bit too far into these celebrations. There was just tons of scrutiny, and now we've been discussing it for 3 minutes. So I guess
we're part of the problem, I suppose.
Football Twitter has got what it's wanted. But I guess back to the game. I mean, you've covered it pretty well, Dukes. I mean, Havertz had a really good game up top as well. 3 shots, obviously. His shot being saved into the path of Bukayo Saka opened the scoring. Also created a couple of chances. Jorginho, 5 tackles and interceptions.
Draws fouls from Canate, that ends up being the
exactly,
red card.
And that was interesting as well. So Canate's red card means that Liverpool still haven't lost a game in the Premier League this season with 11 men, although it was very late on.
True.
But I found that quite interesting. I mean, and I guess as well, this is the thing as well. We've spoken a lot about Arsenal over the last month not taking their chances despite generally dominating games, and that being a reason why they just don't seem to be at the level of Man City and Liverpool. And despite this victory, and despite it being such a dominant performance, I will say this, like, Arsenal still had to rely on the best centre-back in the world and the best goalkeeper in the world, producing maybe the biggest howler of their career, like for Martinelli to score. And then there was a piece of genius from Leandro Trossard to set himself up for that goal. That still needed a little deflection off Van Dijk and Alisson, which first of all goes to show that to win these big games in title races, you need a little bit of luck on your side, but also goes to show that, like, Arsenal still needs to be more clinical if they are going to carry on this kind of form. Like, they still need to you find that in front of goal, because Bukayo Saka, missed a glaring opportunity in the first half. They missed a number of glaring opportunities in the first half, and really it should have been 3-0 at half time. So yeah, that's one thing I would say to temper Arsenal fans' expectations, is that there is still, despite how impressive they were yesterday, there is still clearly work to do.
Yeah, I agree. I actually think there was rightly a lot of focus on the Martinelli goal, but I think the Trossard goal was almost as worrying, because yes, with the Martinelli goal, Van Dijk misjudges the flight of the ball, should head it, just clear it. Same with Saliba for the, I was going to say the Diaz goal. It was a Gabriel own goal, wasn't it? But either way, Van Dijk should sort that out. Alisson then boots, accidentally kicks Van Dijk. It's just a pure mess. But the Trossard goal, he's just so slow to get across. I don't really know what he's doing, because there's not anyone immediately to his left on his left shoulder. It's not like he's really marking anyone either. So he's not really marking anyone. He's not closing Trossard down. Gets a small deflection and it goes through Alisson's legs. And it's just, he's entitled. He has been magnificent this season. Back to his sort of imperious Liverpool peak best, I think. Probably been the best centre-back in the world this year. But that was just, you've got to call it what it was. It was a real stinking performance from Van Dijk.
Yeah.
And Konate as well, far from his best either. And I think they were far too easily dragged out of position. If you watch the build-up to Saka's goal, it's beautiful. Arsenal really creating space well through midfield. A couple of really incisive sort of Napoli-esque from last season passes, where it goes into midfield, back to the defender, back to the winger, and then Van Dijk steps out and there's too much space. But massive respect for Arsenal, because they were under huge pressure there. And for Liverpool to create, I think it was 0.4 XG in a game of that magnitude, it is a little bit troubling. You can put it down as a one-off. They're still on track to compete at least for 4 trophies this season, but a really damaging day for Liverpool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess Klopp said it after full time, didn't he? The kind of those mistakes were just proof
freakish.
That Van Dijk and Alisson are still human beings, and just makes what their usual level is all the more remarkable. Having said that, they're still top of the league by 2 points. Man City, though, this is a great result for them, obviously, playing Brentford tonight, that you're going to be at, Dukes.
I'll be there.
Speaking to City fans, any City fans watching, keep an eye out for Dukes.
I'll be the big bald guy.
But yeah, obviously great result for City, now in their own hands. If they win those 2 games in hand, then they are top of the league, theoretically. Obviously, I'm not sure when those 2 games in hand actually take place.
Well, one of them, they played Brentford twice, and it is their postponed game. Their game in hand is also against Brentford.
Okay.
So, but this is the first one, which was supposed to be scheduled.
Okay, interesting.
But Brentford did the double over them last year.
They did.
So it is quite interesting.
And Tony's back. So who knows? Who knows what happens tonight?
Starting as well. Who knows?
Should we move on to the Chelsea result?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, this was another big sort of disaster, really. And actually, if you compare where they are at this time last year to 23 games, they're 1 point off their tally from last year, which is really pretty troubling. And they went ahead in this game, really nicely worked goal. Moses Caicedo, probably his best pass of the season, I think, to Cole Palmer. Then just Caicedo was well off it for the rest of the game. Ended up being subbed fairly early. Look, some of Wolves' goals were quite fortunate in terms of deflections, leaving Petrovic a little bit, who's actually been pretty good since he came in, to be honest, Petrovic. Maybe he's going to keep, give Sanchez a harder time when he's fully back from injury as well. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't undeserved, this scoreline, to be honest. I mean, Neto and Cunha in particular causing Chelsea so many problems. And for Cunha to now have a Premier League hat-trick to his name after quite a difficult first year, and they had an obligation to buy him, and he cost about £50 million, and it felt like that really scuppered Wolves in the transfer market. They were trying to even out there to get in line with PSR, which they're probably delighted they actually did. But a huge amount of turnover in that squad in the summer. Big players for them in the past, like Adama Traore, João Moutinho, Raul Jimenez, Ruben Neves, etc.
Also, like Lopetegui left because of that as well.
For sure. Nathan Collins leaving as well. Gary O'Neill having, 5 days before the start of the season to be in the top half of the table, to dominate Chelsea, to do the double over them for the first time since, I think, the early 80s, was really, really impressive. But, I mean, it does sort of increase questions around Pochettino, McCubs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think up until now, I feel like it's that a lot of the criticism of Pochettino has been a tad harsh, has been given this, quite inflated, very young squad, most of whom have not been at Chelsea much longer than he has. And so to be able to build a team spirit and an identity with those very, very raw materials was always going to be really, really tough. And I feel like a broken record saying that, because every time Pochettino's come up in conversation this season, I feel like I've had to say that because I do really like Pochettino as a manager. I think he's great, and I think he was one of the better candidates to take on this role. However, I think this game, there were clear. I mean, it was just Cunha's second goal, to be honest, that really brought it home to me. Like, how on earth are Chelsea set up in a way where Pedro Neto, undoubtedly one of the best right wingers in the Premier League, one of the best young wingers in Europe, full stop, is in a foot race with 39-year-old Thiago Silva? I just don't get it. Like, Chilwell far too high at the pitch. I know Chilwell, massive attacking asset to Chelsea, but like, how on earth have Chelsea set up in that way? And that is on Pochettino, I think. And so I'm not surprised at Chelsea fans after the game criticising Pochettino. I think the game plan was all wrong there. And yes, Chelsea could have got back, could have been in a better position in the game. Cole Palmer again was great. Like that pass to Chilwell to then set up for Sterling, who probably should have scored. That would have been a beautiful goal. Like, I saw them beat Middlesbrough 6-1 a few weeks ago. I thought maybe this is a bit of a turning point. A lot
of those goals given to them by Middlesbrough.
For sure. It was a really poor performance for Middlesbrough, and it's still Middlesbrough who are they're not even one of the better teams in the Championship at this moment in time.
No.
But
they did take.
So?
Did take a point off. They drew with Sunderland. Of
course, yeah. But you weren't particularly happy with Sunderland's performance, right?
Really poor, particularly in the second half. We looked really promising in the first half, but lost all shape, lost all intensity in the second. But back to Chelsea, because that's what people are tuning in for. It just feels like, at the start of the season, I remember saying, and I think we all sort of said, like 6th, 7th is a really good year for Chelsea, given the turnover in that squad. And Chelsea fans, were talking about top 4. There was even some of them, the more, probably looking for attention online, but talking about the title, how they had a completely complete squad now.
Let's discard those
the expectations on this squad just weren't very realistic, I think. And they are, 11th now? But they're just not getting better fast enough. And it does feel like he's making quite obvious errors in terms of his selection as well. Like, the whole Colwill left-back thing was a disaster. I think Disassi playing right-back far too often as well. Bit of a disaster as well. But it looks like, for the first time yesterday, he had Gusta right-back, he had Chilwell at left-back, and they still, there's not that many injuries in that team now. And Nkunku was starting up top. Nicholas Jackson wasn't fit enough to start, but is he in their first choice 11? That's up for debate. So it's like all the pieces are there, but they're still not getting any better. And you look at errors made by Badiashile in midweek against Liverpool. You look at errors made by Disassi again yesterday. Thiago Silva, does pull back a goal in the end, but not at his best either. And you've got his wife talking on social media again. It's just so unhelpful. It's just so unhelpful. And you just think, you look at their run of the games coming up. I've got it down here. Villa in the FA Cup this week on Wednesday. Palace away. That's a fairly straightforward game, but we'll see. Palace should be right up for that. City at home, then the Carabao Cup final, then Brentford, Newcastle and Arsenal.
Not an easy run.
Really not an easy run whatsoever. And the noise is getting louder and louder. And they're just not getting better fast enough. And I don't think they should get rid of Pochettino. I think it's a disaster if they do. I think it's an admission that this project is completely failing if they do. And I also don't think there's that many good candidates to take over that would jump at the chance to take over Chelsea right now, to be totally honest. So I would keep Pochettino, but I'm not surprised that some Chelsea fans, it felt like the first time yesterday that they were slightly really, the in-stadium fans, which is really the most, I always think in a fan base, the most reasonable fans, not the ones online. It's the ones that go to games, that pay money every day to go and support their team. It felt like they were turning against him. So that is one to keep an eye on. Let's talk about another seismic result this weekend, though. Newcastle 4, Luton Town 4, McCubs. Where do you want to start with this one? Because you could credit Luton a lot, or you could be pretty worried about Newcastle.
Yeah, it's hard. It's difficult with Newcastle, isn't it? They've been so hot and cold this year. I think, to be honest, Newcastle have kind of reverted to where they probably should be, or maybe just below where they should be. I think last season's was a massive overperformance, getting that 4th spot, given that this project is still kind of in its infancy. But yeah, to draw 4-4 at home, or to concede 4 at home to Luton, is troubling, albeit a Luton side that did put 4 past Brighton midweek.
The league's entertainers.
They are the league's entertainers, and Ross Barkley, Adebayo.
Barkley,
who is better to watch in the league right now?
Yeah. This is an absolute clinic by Barkley. I thought it was insane.
But you kind of thought maybe Newcastle's form was turning around a bit. They obviously beat Villa 3-1 midweek. A Villa side that put 5 past Sheffield United. I know very poor Sheffield United this weekend, but featuring Ollie Watkins, who's I think the first player of the season to hit double figures for goals and assists in the Premier League. But enough on Villa. I mean, Newcastle's success last year was built off a rock solid defence, maybe the second best defence in the league after, well, maybe third best after Man City and
it was
Arsenal.
joint in terms of goals conceded.
Yeah, like what with Man City, yeah. So a really, really imperious defence, playing out their skid week on week, and obviously their pressing system, absolutely brilliant as well. But since the 7th of December, they've only taken 7 points from a possible 27. They've conceded 3 or more against Everton, Spurs, Forest, Liverpool, Man City, and now Luton. They've now conceded 37 already, which is the 10th best record in the league, 4 more than they conceded in the entirety of last season. Longstaff at fault for the Osho goal. Dan Burn not having a game obviously gives away that penalty. Botman and Bruno then doubling up on Barkley to leave Adebayo free for the fourth. There just seems to be a lot less communication in that back line and in midfield, I guess, in a defensive sense, than we've been used to at Newcastle. And we could talk about, I think this Newcastle squad, has been hit by injuries. We were talking about even as far back as November, December about how this squad was struggling to deal with, a bigger calendar with the Champions League and with all those injuries. So I think you can put it partly down to that, but still, St James's Park conceding 4 to Luton. I don't think Newcastle fans will be particularly happy with that. No,
absolutely not. And it felt like, yesterday was the first time they'd had their first choice back line, but it still got Dubravka in goal. They're missing Joe Linton. They're missing, obviously, Tonali. Alexander Isak wasn't fit. Anthony Gordon had to go off at half-time. It's just, it feels like Eddie Howe's got a sticking plaster. He fixes one issue, Barnes is back. And then someone else gets injured. It's really, really unfortunate, and I do feel quite sorry for him, despite being a Sunderland fan. His resources have been really hampered this year, but at the same time, I just think they've been so exposed so often. I think their Champions League campaign was a bit of a disappointment, admittedly in a very difficult group, and then their form since the start of December is really, really troubling. And no, I don't think there should be any change in the dugout. It's not it's not a sackable offence. There's so many other factors, so I think they just need to stick with him. Hopefully it improves. But let's talk about Luton briefly, because they've only lost 1 of their last 6 league games. They've won 3. They're now 1 point clear of relegation. They've got a game in hand, and it's a fantastic story. I don't think there was anyone that didn't have them 20th or 19th before a ball was kicked, really. I mean, some people might have said, maybe Kenilworth Road will be a factor, but it's not really just the Kenilworth Road factor, to be honest. I just think they're a very well-drilled side, to be honest, and they stay in games, they don't let their heads drop, and given the fact that they lost Tom Lockyer to a cardiac arrest, their captain, their totem, for a second cardiac arrest or second heart issue in a matter of months as well, that could have rocked a lot of teams. Sure. And I think they've recruited exceptionally. And let's talk about Ross Barkley, because as I said earlier, it was a total clinic in midfield. Get a load of these statistics: 6 tackles and interceptions, 5 clearances, 2 dribbles, completed 91% of his passes. A lot of those were forward as well. 4 key passes, 2 shots, 1 goal, 1 assist. And
that's outrageous. KDB that's like peak KDB.
KDB would be asking for Barkley's shirt after that.
KDB doesn't put up those kind of tackle and interception numbers.
Absolutely not. He was doing absolutely everything in midfield, and the England shouts are getting louder and louder, and with good reason. He should be in conversation on current form. The fact is that Rice and Bellingham will definitely go, and then it feels like Maddison should almost definitely go as well.
Cole Palmer's also in the conversation.
Cole Palmer,
maybe stylistically,
Kobe Mainu as well. But Ross Barkley, I'd rather he went than Jordan Henderson. I think he's probably Conor Gallagher's form's dropped off a bit recently as well. He's in the potential pecking order for a flight ticket to Germany. I don't think many people would have said that when he was struggling at Nice. So huge turnaround from him. But respect to Luton. I mean, 8 goals in a week against Newcastle, who Champions League level team this year, or at least finished in it last year, and Brighton, who are in the Europa League knockouts. That's really impressive stuff.
Incredibly impressive. I was just thinking Ross Barkley, probably the most improved player in the Premier League. this season.
Back to his Everton pomp.
Yeah, which
But
is
playing
mad.
deeper as well. He's brilliant.
Yeah,
I think
pretty
it's so helpful that when number 10s come back into central midfield, they are so comfortable picking up the ball in tight spaces and turning and looking for passes. And I feel like when you're a Luton side that don't necessarily see that much possession, you're forced to take advantage of the opportunities you do. And Barkley just being able to weave in and out of pressure and just pick out these beautiful passes. Also, shout out Alfie Doughty, probably one of my favourite Premier League players this year. Just an amazing story. So guys, that's our thoughts on those 3 games. I'm sorry that the episode was a little bit shorter than usual today. Having said that, I think it was still a good half an hour. But we've got various stuff to do. I need to get off to Brentford later, so we need to get this edit done, etc. But thank you so much for watching Monday Vibes. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll catch you later in the week. Also, go check out our Snapchat content. We do produce 3 videos a week on there, and they're always good fun. Bye-bye.